Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Dani.
And I'm 𝐬𝐮𝐞𝐭.
And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
I feel like we haven't done a podcast together in months. I think it has literally been months.
Okay, yeah, it's been all right. I've been honestly missing this. I love our back and forth, and I love how much y'all love our back and forth, and we have so much more happening for the rest of this year to talk about. It has been a lovely summer. It's finally not rain. We had so much rain.
It's day 3 of summer. It's day 3 of summer as of us recording this.
Absolutely disgusted with the amount of rain that we have had. It's been driving me crazy.
I feel like you and Desmond are playing mind tricks on me. Yesterday, Desmond was like, guess what? There's only a few days left of summer vacation. And I was like, buddy, yesterday was the first day of summer. And he was like, what? And then you just said, it's been a crazy summer or whatever. It's June 23rd today. You guys are insane.
I started earlier. We've been hitting ice cream stands everywhere, all over the place.
That's true. This is a really big week. We are getting ready for the Vegan Proteins meetup. We've been talking about it for probably the last 7 months or so, and it's finally happening this weekend. Alice is actually flying in today. Sawyer's flying in on Wednesday. Ben's picking him up, and then we head up on Thursday for the meetup in Burlington, and I'm really excited, although I'm not super psyched. It does look like it's going to rain a little bit every day we're there. Hopefully not the whole time every day. Hopefully that was from last month, and that's behind us now.
I can't believe this is happening. We've had so many meetups. We've met up with so many of y'all over the years. It's not even funny. I could not even imagine. Hundreds upon hundreds of times where we've met up, hung out, probably hundreds of times where we've been somewhere, either throwing an event or being a part of an event. But this is the first official Vegan Proteins meetup. Oh my gosh, something we've talked about for like well over a decade.
Yep. And I'm very excited about it, but I am also well reminded why I am not an event planner and why we eloped and didn't have a wedding, because I am not good at this. Both like literally, logistically, I'm not good at it, but also like my tiny heart can't take it. I get so stressed out about these things and like hoping everybody's gonna have a good time. Oh my goodness. It's luckily Alice has been a champion. Alice has done a huge lion's share of all of the planning. So I've just been running around behind her like Charlie Brown the whole time. Like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? So get ready for that, guys. It's gonna be awesome.
I can't wait. I've only caught so much of the worrying and planning because I've mostly been checked out, focused on the Vegan Strong Plant Built team and other stuff that we do.
Yeah, because the dudes don't even know what's happening during the meetup. Literally, like, you three are going to show up and be like, so what are we doing?
I'm here. Let's do it. Like, it's fine. It's whatever.
Anyway, what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about when somebody decides that they want to change their physique, namely they think that they're going to have a huge life change by losing usually like a pretty significant amount of weight, and they do it successfully, but then they get there and they're kind of just looking around like, okay, what now? Like this doesn't feel the way I thought that it was going to feel. So what do I do now? Because they've put so much hope into this idea that when they lose 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever pounds, you know, everything is going to be different on the other side. And that can be really challenging for a lot of people when they get there and realize they're not miraculously an entirely new human being. And I just think it's an interesting conversation that not a lot of people talk about. And maybe it's because not a lot of people have experienced it on the whole, so it's not as relatable to so many people, but I experienced it, and I know a lot of people, clients we've worked with over the years that have experienced the same thing where they reach the weight loss goal, but it's not enough.
The craziest thing is we focus on the buy-in. We focus on what we want, and we try so hard to get it. So you want your body to look a certain way. You want to lose a certain amount of weight, and you struggle with that if you're one of the unlucky ones, which most people are. The majority of people have an extremely hard time getting to a goal. And then they're finally so happy, they're like, you know what? This is my goal. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. And they start getting there. And then they're like, okay, well, cool. There's my buy-in, and my reward on the other side is I'm going to get the results. But then they get there and you're like, oh, wow. You know, at first you're happy mostly. You're like, oh, I did it. I lost a bunch of weight. And then you're kind of thinking about, well, how do I maintain it? And again, if you're not one of the unlucky ones, because the majority of people also have a hard time maintaining results, I think, after the fact, after a big goal is reached.
Yeah, maintaining weight loss is harder than achieving weight loss for sure.
But let's say you finally do all of the low-hanging fruit and the quote-unquote easier stuff, which is also it's really hard work. It's really hard work to set a goal, go after it, accomplish it, especially when it's a big goal. And then afterwards, when it gets boring, to stick with it. Let's say you've finished all of that. Now you have to get used to the fact that you are in a totally different body. People see you in a different way. There's all kinds of weird conversations that you're going to have with yourself that are coming at you, all kinds of crazy thoughts. It's an entire lifestyle change. Oh, and spoiler alert, the thing that you were initially happy about, the fact that you got there and you're like, this is what it's like on paper right now. No, you're not actually like okay with that.
I think that's the main thing I wanted to talk about. Like, yeah, reaching a weight loss goal. Let's say someone wants to lose 100 pounds. That's a big goal, right? Achieving it is very, very challenging. Day in, day out, boring stuff. Tracking your food, exercising, getting your sleep, doing all the things. It's boring, but you have the reward of what you believe the goal to be, which is seeing the scale go down every single day. So every day or every few days, you see the scale go down. You're like, yes, it's working, right? You feel really good about it. But I feel like most people will get a certain portion of the way towards this goal, and then they'll start to realize that a lot of the things they thought were going to be happening as they lost 50, 60, 70 pounds, stuff they thought they were going to be seeing in the mirror is not looking the way they thought it was going to be looking. And I did that, but I did a lot of things wrong, right? Like I didn't strength train. I was not prioritizing protein. I was definitely losing weight too fast. So I thought, always in hindsight, I thought that was why. That's why I didn't look like a fitness model after I lost 100 pounds, because I wasn't doing those things. But I actually, over the years, have realized that even if you are doing all of those things, if your weight loss goal is big enough, you are likely still going to have some qualms with the way your body looks as you lose a significant amount of weight. So I think the most obvious example is loose skin. People losing a lot of weight and realizing that, yes, the scale is down, they can wear smaller clothes, but stuff is hanging differently than it did before. And I think that might be the toughest of all of the pills to swallow in a big weight loss journey for most people.
And then what do you do about it outside of accepting what you're capable of and what you're not? And how do you assess how much progress you've actually made? Because your skin covers all of your muscle, and it can be hard to think about, well, should I focus on recomposition by way of body fat loss right now? And then you're like, well, I don't really know exactly whether or not that would change. It's very hard to wrap your head around all that, let alone find a way to accept / dare I say even feel comfortable what you are left with after you've lost a lot of weight, if you are coming from a big weight loss goal, right? I think in rarer circumstances, some people wind up electing to have surgery if there's a lot of loose skin, for example, but that's not the norm, I wouldn't say.
I think it actually kind of might be. So it kind of depends on how much somebody lost. I mean, the norm, I guess I don't really know what the norm is, but when you've worked so hard to change your body, there's a lot of reasons people want to lose significant amounts of weight. Health, of course, should always be the number one reason. Let's be real though, it's not. It's not the number one reason that people want to lose a significant amount of weight. Oftentimes it's because they want to look a certain way. And what they're picturing in their mind is not loose skin. They're picturing a tight, svelte look. And if you have been carrying a lot of weight for a long time, you would be an absolute unicorn to lose a significant amount of weight and not deal with loose skin. And I know those unicorns exist. Those are the people that gave birth to quintuplets and never got a single stretch mark. Listen, they exist, but they're rare. Most people are going to have loose hanging skin. They're going to have stretch marks from both gaining weight and losing weight. And it can really suck a lot of the wind out of your sails because there's so many things about your body that you can change if you want to. And short of surgery, there isn't anything that you can do about that. And it actually stops a lot of people from continuing their weight loss journey.
Really? I think
because
so,
they start to say, the scale's going down, but I think I might actually be looking worse. now. And to me, that is just so heartbreaking, especially because of the health benefits. If someone has 100 pounds to lose, the health benefits of losing it are probably pretty great. But they're so uncomfortable with hanging skin anywhere. And loose skin happens everywhere, my friends. Everywhere. Everywhere you can think of that there is skin. People's faces change. Arms, legs, knees, stomach, butt, back. Like everywhere can have loose skin. And if you're not like mentally prepared for that, can just be such a kick in the teeth when you have worked that hard.
Okay, so how could you possibly fully mentally prepare for that? I guess that's my argument. I think you can try. You can work with a coach who has experience. You can do research. You can begin to accept that these things are a probability. Like most things though, until you're on the other side, you can't fully mentally prepare for it. But what are some of the ways that you can mentally prepare yourself?
I think just knowing that that's going to happen, that, you know, you're going to look up how to avoid loose skin, and you're going to read, do it slowly, eat your protein, strength train, build muscle to fill out the skin. And all of those things are true, but it's minuscule compared to the skin that most people losing 100 pounds are going to be dealing with. And there is no cream, there's no massage, there's no protocol, there's no supplement, there's no amount of muscle that you're going to be able to build that is going to truly fill that out. And I say this from experience for those of you who haven't been listening for a long time. I myself lost over 90 pounds, I've kept it off for, I don't know, 20 years or something now. But at about 15 years after that, I did have surgery to remove the loose skin from my stomach and my chest. I thought I was going to do my whole body, arms, legs, all that, decided against it after I got that first surgery, which I think is kind of an interesting thing to talk about that kind of ties in here.
Sure, yeah, go for it. You thinking the scarring perhaps, the money, the recovery, the all of it, what kind of results would you actually get out of it? Where's your head at with it as far as everything stopping after the initial surgery that you had?
Well, I mean, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with the results of the surgery, but at the end of the day, like, I'm still me. And that's really what it came down to after I got that surgery and healed up from it. It was expensive. The recovery was kind of intense. I think it looks good. Like I said, I'm pleased with it. Would I do it again for that same degree of improvement with loose skin on my legs or my arms or my face? No, I wouldn't, because I thought, just like the weight loss, right? Everybody thinks I'm going to lose 100 pounds, I'm going to be a different person. And you will be a different person, right? Because you cannot lose that amount of weight without significantly changing everything about how you live your life. So you will be a different person, but you think like, physically, I'm going to be a completely different person. And it's like, you're still you, but now you're a smaller, leaner you, but you have some loose skin. Have this surgery. Once I have this surgery, then I'm going to look like the person who worked as hard as I did. And yeah, that happened, but I'm still me. Like I think we just all get caught in this trap that if we do this, everything will change for us. And weight loss, I would put at the top of that list for a lot of people. I mean, how often, when I lose weight, I'll blank. I'll wear this thing. I'll go to this place. I'll see these people. And I think it's a really unfortunate place to be in. And I would recommend trying to not get into that headspace if you can avoid it. I don't regret my surgery at all. Not at all. And I think if somebody really feels compelled to do so, they should do so. But you got to have realistic expectations of the fact that on the other side of it, guess what? You're still going to have flaws. I'll give you a funny example.
Go for it.
I have stretch marks everywhere, except I had one stretch mark on my stomach, which is so bizarre. Just one. It actually looked like a scar in the first place. And part of where they removed the skin, they had to cut kind of through that stretch mark to do it, and then stitched back up. And I still have just the very top of that stretch mark because like it's still there. That part of the skin is still there. And you know, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, kind of wish that wasn't there. But when you have these big surgeries, there's other complications that happen with those surgeries. Maybe they stitch you up in kind of a funny way and you get a little dog ear somewhere. Or, you know, there's a different look to people that have had these surgeries. Or maybe they have to reconstruct your belly button and it looks a little weird afterwards. They didn't touch my belly button, but most people, they do. So I don't know. I mean, the loose skin was just one example with the weight loss and how people think everything's going to be different, but then they get there and they're really bummed out about this particular thing.
I think the point here is there's nothing wrong with focusing on the superficial and the vanity of it all, and it will give you some degree of happiness. At least I feel like it will, or it should, moreover. But if you're investing all your stock in the outcome on paper, on the surface, as far as what it's going to look like, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And there's a lot of mental work and mental muck and emotional baggage that comes with it all. And that emotional baggage and that mental muck does not go away because you decided to do something with your body.
Mm-hmm. Another one is people think they're going to have a certain shape when they lose a lot of weight, and they don't have that shape. They might have a celebrity or an actor or model or whatever that they think they're going to end up looking like, but they can't possibly look like that because they have an entirely different structure than that person. Or maybe they think they're going to lose 100 pounds and have a big juicy booty, and they might lose 100 pounds and have no booty whatsoever, just as an example. So thinking that the weight loss is going to be the be all end all is a surefire way to disappointment. And there's a reason that even people that never had 100 pounds to lose, that they too are also in the gym and in the kitchen working on their physiques for decades, over decades, because it is not just the weight loss. If that's all there was to it, that would be awesome. But there's so much more to it. And this brings up an even deeper conversation that you kind of alluded to a little bit about how you cannot be expecting just the physical changes to change all the stuff that's going on in here if there's issues here.
Yeah, and the work on that is really challenging because it's so much easier to just not talk about it and to just put the work in and think eventually it's going to go away because you accomplished what you set out to do. You got healthier, you got fitter. But if you don't start to talk some of that stuff out, even if you, at the very least, brain dump some of it on a piece of paper and then perhaps journal with something, if you don't get it out of your head, it will mess with you. And I would argue that it will stand in the way of you getting healthier and getting fitter, not just being happier. So it's definitely, to me, those are the kinds of conversations that are incredibly valuable and helpful for you to have with some sort of trusted professional. And in the fitness world, as a fitness coach like one of us, like that's the kind of stuff where, especially if you start to do it before the fact and you don't just sit in the fact that like, yeah, I'm signed up to do this and I'm going to do it. If you can work on that stuff before the fact, you're going to have a much easier time adapting to your new awesome body.
I also think that, I was just talking about physical things like getting to your goal weight and not being happy with the way certain parts of your body look. But there's also this mentality, especially when someone has a lot of weight to lose, that like, I'm going to lose this weight no matter what it takes, I'm going to get this weight off. And what that does for a lot of people is puts them in a situation where they are choosing to kind of use really unhealthy strategies just to see the scale go down, and they may succeed in doing so and actually end up reaching their goal weight with these strategies. But then I remember this distinctly. I remember feeling like I had gotten there, I had seen the number that I wanted to see, and then I was like, okay, and now what? Now what do I do? How do I move forward from here? What's the next step? I've been focusing on weight loss for over a year. Okay, how do I keep this now? And realizing, I remember it literally dawning on me like, oh my God, I have to do this forever to stay this way. Like, I was very young, but like it didn't even occur to me until I was already at my goal weight that I gotta eat this way forever if I want to. If it makes sense, it made sense. I was like, I had to eat this way to get here. I bet you I have to eat this way to stay here. And because I wasn't using very healthy and sustainable protocols to do this, began to spiral from there into the most unhealthy relationship with food I had ever had in my life. Way worse than it was when I was 100 pounds heavier. And that's another example of, yeah, that weight loss, it's not enough. You also have to be learning the tools that you are going to use for the rest of your life to continue to reach those goals.
Yeah, and I speculate that the way that you've been eating that got you to where you were before you initiated a lifestyle change and lost all the weight, when you are not completely comfortable with the way that you look after the fact, the way that you were eating in the past, guess what? It's probably going to show up in the way that you start eating when you're stressed about your outcome, when your emotional baggage creeps in and you're like, I don't really know how I feel about this right now. What next? I accomplished what I thought that I needed to do. And that creates a whole other thing to work on.
Yeah, because you never actually dealt with the systems that you were living in before, the habits that you had created before. You may have temporarily been able to break those habits, but if you never actually addressed them or thought about them on some deeper level, there's a really high likelihood that they are going to creep back in, especially in those moments of frustration and confusion when you feel like you have been perfect for so long and like white knuckling your way to the finish line to then suddenly look up and be like, oh crap, I got to do this forever. No, there's a part of your brain that just goes, no, I'm not doing this forever, but you don't know what to do. So then you're just lost, and it's very, very hard. And it was easily the scariest, worst part of my entire fitness journey.
I got a fun question before we try to see how much deeper we can get into this, and we'll see what comes up. So you got there, you've put the work in, you're mostly content, the weight loss is there, and let's say it, hypothetically speaking, what do you do next? What's like, say you listened to this episode, you did all the work, it's a year later, what do you do now? What's your next goal?
It depends on the person. I mean, I would say for most people, they need to learn how to eat at maintenance. For almost anybody that reaches a goal that big, they now need to learn not be on a diet, but also not just absolutely go buck wild. They have to learn how to eat like a normal human being after that. Because after losing that much weight, you just become a person who's always dieting. And if you had a lot of weight to lose in the start, you were probably the person who was always dieting before that, right? Like always trying to lose weight, and then one day you try something and it actually starts working. But your identity is the person that's losing weight. So when you're suddenly not actively trying to lose weight anymore, it's just very confusing. But I would say most people need to learn how to eat at maintenance, which in my opinion is way harder than actually losing weight. Way harder. Because now you have to learn. Now you can't be like, oh no, I can't come to your party. I'm on a diet. I can't have that dessert. I'm on a diet. Because you're not on a diet, but what do you do instead? Like, it's hard.
So you have all these conversations that you've had with other people, all of these social situations and a certain kind of environment that you've avoided. You have all kinds of foods and meals that you have been trying to figure out so that you can lose the weight, and all the stuff in the past that you've done to do that. And you have the way that you feel and have felt trying to get to this weight loss goal. And now you put it all together and you have to find a way to change the way other people see you, to change your environment, to be comfortable about how you eat.
If you lose a significant amount of weight, the way other people see you will change. And I actually found that to be actually kind of shitty, if I'm being honest. It was a really shitty wake-up call for me, just how much better thinner people are just treated in public. That was shocking and made me actually more cynical than I already was, which was actually kind of a difficult thing to do. But it, people that not just ignored me, but like worse than that, like straight up made fun of me, insulted me, were now like trying to get my number. Ew, that was so gross. And yeah, it made me not like humanity as much as which wasn't like a lot in the first place. So I knew people were jerks to me before. That sucked enough. But the fact that suddenly they were not jerks to me and I could only attribute it to that. I mean, who knows? Maybe they grew as people. But maybe not. And that made me just like, oh, you sucked before. Now you super, super suck.
I'm still thinking about my other idea here where you wind up getting into those conversations where people want to say something, but they don't know what to say to be supportive and also say, hey, look what you did. Or the other kind of person that just flippantly says whatever is on their mind without thinking about your personal feelings about what you did, where they're like, oh, you look so good now and so
you look so much better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh, I feel like at least where I live, there's like a cultural divide here where the Hispanic community is much more likely to just say that. Like, you look good. You're not fat anymore. Like stuff like that. And I just always chalked that up to like cultural differences and always kind of thought that it was a little bit funny. But I don't think I got a lot of weird, like backhanded compliments and like backhanded support, which I know a lot of people do. I think because of the circles that I had in the first place, they were genuinely good people. So I didn't really deal with that, but I know that other people do deal with that. Clothes shopping is also, on the one hand, it's exciting when you've lost a significant amount of weight because you get to wear stuff you've never gotten to wear before. So maybe you get to go into stores you never got to go in before. That was weird for me. But also, especially as somebody with, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm not quite a fashionista. Shocking, I know. But as somebody who wasn't like great at dressing myself in my larger body, now I have this like smaller, more socially acceptable one that I have to learn how to dress all over again. Could have passed on all of that. Would have been happy to just wear a sack. But that would not have worked. So it was just weird to kind of try. It's still, to this day, it's still weird to me. The other night we were at the beach and I was looking at this top and it was like this cute little tiny top. And I was like, never in a million years did I think at almost 40 years old, these are the shirts that I would be looking at when we go out. It was just still kind of strange to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about the differences that people deal with culturally when it comes to men, women, the different challenges, the different struggles.
Probably immense, but I can't speak to them too much because I've only ever been me.
Yeah. I feel like with men, there's that desire to be bigger. And if you lose a lot of weight, then there's that fear that you're small. And that can be a bit tricky and a bit challenging where you're like, what do you do with that? And I think it holds similarly to what you were talking about with the whole skin thing. It's not skin, but with men, they have a fear of getting to a healthy body weight because they might be perceived as small or puny, or they're not going to fit into their clothes and look nice and muscular in their arms and in their chest. And that can be like a real big issue. I mean, I've seen that play out with clients, friends, family, all kinds. And that's scary because you can literally, similar to the whole skin thing, you're afraid to lose skin. Imagine now you're afraid of not looking big enough, so you just...
Oh yeah, I can think of, at first I was like, I don't know anybody that's done that, but now I'm thinking about it and yeah I do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I don't think it's as common as you would think. I think that on the whole, human beings tend to want to be thinner versus the opposite. I think there's a small subsect of like gym bro culture that's like terrified of looking small, but I think the average man would probably rather be perceived as thin versus fat.
Maybe.
No,
I know I
for
dealt
sure.
with it for my entire fitness career, and even still I'm dealing with it to this day. So I can't be the only one when it comes to fitness culture.
Right, but you are the fitness culture. I'm just talking about the average person.
In
the
general.
average person's not going, I don't want to look small, bro. Especially if they're overweight. They're just like, I would like to not have my doctor yell at me every time I go in.
I think there's less of it, but there's probably more of that than you might realize when it comes to men, like just wanting to...
Okay, if you say so. Maybe it's just the guys that I work with, but I have to make them stop losing weight. I have to be like, dude, please, we're getting to a place, I'm not taking you there. We're not going any further than this. And they're like, but, and I'm like, no, trust me, no.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I guess the whole point of this podcast was just that for so many cultural and societal reasons, weight loss is like the be all end all for so many people. And they think that if they do that, then everything else is just gravy. And I think that really sets people up for a world of disappointment at the end because that's not how it goes. Most of the time, there's going to be a whole new list of insecurities that you then have to also deal with. So before you get there, if you can try to work on valuing and appreciating your body for what it is, regardless of its size, look, capabilities, whatever, it's going to be a little bit easier. Not easy. Because I've done a lot of this work over the years, but like I still absolutely have moments or days where I see myself in the mirror and I just go, ugh. Like I think everybody has that, right? Yes, everybody has that.
Totally.
But it's not like that. It's not a constant like refrigerator hum in the back of my mind all the time. And when it happens, I can go like, knock it off, Dani. And then it's easier to move on from. If you don't know that it's coming, then it can be really scary at the end.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to touch upon with this conversation?
No, I think it would be maybe a better conversation if I was talking to somebody else that had experienced it. But not that this conversation isn't good, but I think there might be more points to talk about if somebody else kind of got what I was trying to say and to bounce ideas off of. So
We'll keep the conversation going with us. Shoot us some messages in the comments. Let's talk about this in our Muscles by Brussels group for those of you who are listening, for our members. We can get an idea of where we all stand with this, with our team and everything. You're going to hear more of this conversation because it's a good one. And I don't feel like we've done this conversation enough justice as of late, even though it's something that we've sprinkled out and about and throughout our conversation with you for a very long time now. But now that we're throwing this down, a whole episode about this, I feel like we should see what else comes of it and what you think.
all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you are interested in any kind of one-on-one coaching, go ahead and fill out a coaching assessment in the show notes or in the YouTube description below. Fill it out and you'll hear back from one of the coaches within a day. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, our free Muscles by Brussels Facebook group. Please come join us there. And you can follow 𝐶𝐿 on Instagram at Muscles by Brussels, and I am on there at Vegan Proteins. Once again, my name is Dani.
And I'm 𝐶𝐿.
And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.